So today we will be speaking with John Thibaudeau from Fannie Mae. So within Fannie Mae's single family collateral and quality risk management division, John is the vice president of single family real estate asset management. John Thibaudeau has over 25 years of real estate leadership experience and is responsible for leading Fannie Mae's single family real estate organization. John oversees the management and operations of all single-family real estate functions, including property preservation and maintenance, occupied property management, repairs, home path, marketing. It keeps going. Sales, and all title and closing activities, as well as the management of real estate vendors and vendor performance. Additionally, he oversees alternative dispositions and pre-foreclosure liquidations such as Community First program, mortgage release, auction, and third-party sales. Prior to joining Fannie Mae in 2003, John began his corporate career with Freddie Mac in 1998. John is also a veteran of the United States Air Force, where he served as crew chief on military aircraft. And John, thank you for serving. John holds an MBA in finance from Southern Methodist University and a BS in business from the University of Texas at Dallas. And it's a pleasure to have you here today, John. And I'll turn the floor over to you.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it, Brian. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for the introduction there. I had considered or contemplated, considering that this is the New York MBA, including some additional detail about my love and passion for all things New England sports. But considering the audience, I wasn't sure if that was a good idea or not. Although I know the Yankees got the best of us in this last 4-game series. So it's all good. Yeah, so just a high level overview of our agenda today. Brian just covered obviously introduction. I appreciate that there, Brian. I'm going to give you all an overview of single family real estate. What is this group within Fannie Mae? What are we responsible for? How do our priorities align to our mission? Talk about some of our mission focused outcomes and really spend a little bit of time talking about how affordable supply is a challenge just across the country, and some of the things that we're doing here at the company in leveraging our REO inventory, so our foreclosed inventory, as a means or to provide affordable housing opportunities. And how we do that is through our repair strategy, as well as through what's called our Community First by Fannie Mae channel. And then we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A as well. All right, so just a little bit about single-family real estate, who we are, what we do. There's a lot of detail here on this slide, but really what I would call you out or highlight for you is we have in pre-foreclosure, obviously we have our loss mitigation waterfall for when a loan goes delinquent. Really, at the time that my team steps in and gets involved is once a property has been identified as delinquent and vacant. As well as in the event that a borrower is interested in some type of liquidation option, so a deed in lieu of foreclosure or a short sale. And then we also manage the foreclosure bidding process and third-party sales. And then once the property comes into our inventory, we have everything from, if you think about owning or renting a property of your own, right? Everything that's involved with that, whether that be maintaining the lawns, making sure that our properties are being well maintained and preserved. We also have, a number of teams that support us with utility management, HOA tax management, occupied management. And then, like I said earlier, I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about our rehab strategy in this space. And so really what I would call out here or summarize with this slide is that there's a lot of work that goes into this property management process, if you will, and we've got a lot of teams that support all of these activities here inside and outside of the company. And so kind of alluded to some of our capabilities. We what's amazing, or it's crazy to think about, is since 2009, we have sold more than 1.8 million homes through our REO disposition channel, which is obviously the height of the housing crisis. It's 2008, 2009 to where we are today. We obviously, in order to be successful in that, we've had to have really the infrastructure and the expertise, to really be effective at that. And so, we manage a lot of this in-house today. We've got, I'm sure, as you can imagine, a lot of personnel, even still today, that support this work. We have a number of programs that we also utilize today to help. Like I was talking about earlier, just from an affordable supply perspective. So community first, and again, I'm going to get into this a little bit more detail here later. Our repair strategy, and I already talked about property preservation as well. On the technology side, we've got a lot of technology. If you imagine, we're managing thousands of properties across the country. In fact, today we've got about 8,000 homes. In order to be successful in that, we've got to make sure that we don't just have the personnel and also the vendor network, which I'll touch on here in a second, but we've got to make sure that we also have the technology, right, to that helps us in terms of providing real-time information about what may or may not be happening at the property level, and I'll also talk about that here in a little bit more detail as well. On the vendor network side, and one thing I can't stress enough is, we wouldn't be successful in this without the right partners, and that's the realtors that we work with, who really are our eyes and ears on the ground and are vital to this work. We also leverage national and regional repair contractors. I already mentioned field service contractors. There's a lot of vendor engagement that's required for us, again, to be successful. And then when we think about our mission, so Fannie Mae's mission is to facilitate equitable and sustainable access to homeownership and affordable and quality rental housing all across America. And so, I mentioned just a moment ago, how one of the ways that we do that here in my space is by leveraging our REO inventory, where our repair strategy not only helps to support our mission, but it also helps, we get credit from an ESG perspective, also from duty to serve. I know a lot of you probably don't know what that is, but that's an FHFA scorecard item that really is community focused outcomes. And then, our inventory also gives us the opportunity to not just rehab properties for owner-occupant purchasers, but also, when we rehab the homes, to rehab them in a way that makes them sustainable for the long term, right? So when we think about like sustainability, right, climate resiliency is a big part of that. And so, really the point here with this slide is there are a lot of kind of mission focused outcomes, if you will, that really tie well into this work. I think I skipped ahead a slide. All right, so talking about outcomes. And so since 2010, I talked a little bit earlier about the number of homes that we've sold, but 700,000 of the homes that we've sold since 2010 have sold to owner occupants. And what I remind my team of all the time is, look, at the end of the day, like if the outcome is not that, or if the outcome is that we're selling more properties to investors, then we're not being successful in the strategy. And in fact, when it comes to repairing properties, one of the things that's great about repaired properties is historically 9 out of 10 homes that we do repair sell to an owner occupant. And so, from our perspective, that's where really we're trying to lean more heavily into repairs, because we do see that as a viable solution for creating affordable home ownership opportunities, in the communities and the areas of the country where we have inventory. Also, since 2010, we've invested over $3 billion in our, in rehab, which is pretty phenomenal to think about. We've also sold more than 28,000 homes through our community first and neighborhood stabilization initiatives, where these are, the way to think about this is these are homes that are sold to nonprofit and community partners. And then also, we talk about affordable. So 68% of the properties that we've sold since 2010, for those loans that we acquired as a new loan here at Fannie Mae, 68% of those sold to low to moderate AMI purchasers. And so, really good story there about, again, from a mission perspective, it's selling homes to not just owner occupants, but really, again, kind of tackling this affordable homeownership challenge that we have. One other interesting statistic is, our homes, just the makeup of the inventory that we have on a national level. And granted, I know every market's different, right? And it's going to look different depending on where you are. But on a national level, our homes are about $100,000 more affordable than the average price of a home in the country today. And so, just speaks to another reason why the work that we do is so important. I've spent some time talking about owner occupant housing or sales. I mentioned the 9 out of 10 homes that we repair sell to owner occupants. And then overall, when we look at our total, what this is showing or representing is our total retail channel. So the way I think about it is anything that we sell as is and repaired. So you can see the historical here, since 2010, 60% of those have sold to owner occupants or community-minded purchasers. And then here over the last few years, as you can see, we've seen some pretty remarkable increases in the overall owner occupancy rate, which really, to be honest with you, has been a challenge. Think about the properties that we acquire today. There's not a lot of volume. There's a lot of activity in the foreclosure bidding process where, a lot of homes do sell through that channel. And so what we wind up acquiring tend to be properties that are in worse condition than we have historically seen. And so it requires a deeper level of rehab. And I can't tell you enough, like how often we're out in the field, walking a property that we're repairing or we just repaired, where a neighbor comes up to us and is like, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much that you guys are doing this work," because they've seen that property in its condition, and especially like in New York where we have lengthier foreclosure timelines that we're challenged with. In some cases, properties will sit there vacant for a number of years, unfortunately. And so for us to be able to come in, make the investment that we're making, and put that property back to use is obviously super meaningful and impactful for the local communities. And in fact, talking about New York, I thought some of you might be interested in seeing some of these statistics. Again, recognize this isn't a lot of volume, but again, for us to be able to do everything that we can do to be able to help support affordable supply opportunities. Since 2021, we prepared 260 homes in New York, and so that's almost 3/4 of our inventory. Our goal is to be able to push that a little bit further. We think realistically it's probably somewhere in the 75 to 80% range. And then overall, our average repair investment's about $55,000 per property. And so in a lot of cases, we're going in, we're doing full updates. So we're pulling out the kitchen, we're updating the bathrooms. This isn't just about paint and carpet and cosmetic. Again, talking about the challenges of properties that have been in foreclosure for a number of years. If you imagine, some of those are in pretty rough condition where we're having to ensure that the property is not just repaired, right, but it's also healthy, sustainable for the long term. And so again, we're having to make some significant investments there. And then I talked about owner occupancy outcomes. So, great to see this also in the state of New York during this time, where about 90% or close to 90% of the homes are repaired have sold to owner occupant purchasers. Now this slide's a little bit, can be a little bit confusing, but just very simply, the way to think about this or to look at this is the red line down here below. This is looking at the percentage of properties that we have sold that were sold to a low income purchaser. And so these are loans that we reacquired as a new loan after the REO sale. The light blue line here, this is looking at low and moderate income percentage of sales. And so as you can see, we've seen a nice increase really, I mean, it's been relatively flat, but especially in this past year where, we've been leaning more heavily uh, into our repair strategy, and it's been great, great outcome to be able to see that percentage increasing. And then, in terms of affordable housing opportunities, one of or a few things that we're doing in here specifically is like, how do we create opportunities to reduce the burden of costs, the upfront costs for owner-occupant purchasers, to be able to, help them from a cash reserve perspective for when they do actually close on the loan. And so we're doing a few things that we're pretty proud of here. So one is we have an area median income concession. So for qualified purchasers, there is a 3% closing cost concession that we provide today. And in fact, since we started this in it was about almost 2 years ago now, we have issued about $3 million in closing cost credit. And so it's been great to see buyers taking advantage of that there. Another program that we have is what we call our Home Path Ready Buyer Program. And so what that is it's just for first-time home buyers who, who ultimately they take our training. It's our Home View training course online. And once they receive that certification that they've completed the training, they are then eligible for up to 3%. And what's great is you can actually you can stack the two. So you could, if you're a first-time home buyer and you qualify for the AMI concession, well, you can stack those on top of each other and have an even greater credit towards whatever it is that you might need. And then the last credit that we're offering, if you imagine, I mean, these are properties that are in our inventory. We've obviously completed repairs, or in most cases we've completed repairs. We know more about that property than we would, for other loans that we would originate, right? And so we offer an LLPA credit to cover the cost of the appraisal, where again, I mean, we just want to provide any opportunity for to reduce that burden of cost for purchasers of our properties. And so for those of you on here, I mean, as you speak with agents, as you speak with borrowers or prospective borrowers, we would ask that or encourage you to help us promote these programs, and because at the end of the day, I mean, this is really helping to from an affordability perspective, as well as again, I was talking about setting up borrowers for success, right, for when they do in fact purchase the home. And so these have been three great programs that we're leveraging in our space today. All right, I'm gonna take a drink of water before, if you don't mind, before I jump into this. All right, so talked a little bit about our repair strategy, and wanted to spend some time just going into more detail here, because I mean, this is something I know for our team and the company that we're extremely proud of. And so any opportunity for us to promote this work, we try to take advantage of it. And I know that our regulator has been, that FHFA has been extremely complimentary of the work that we're doing here. And so, I talked about it earlier about having a vendor network that's in place to be able to be successful in this. But it's not just about the network. I mean, we have a number of things that we utilize, a number of tools and resources, and I talked about earlier technologies. We have a model that we use in this space that helps us from a decisioning perspective, where every property that comes in, we feed that into the model, and the model provides us with a recommendation around the repairs that may or may not be needed. One of the things that if you imagine, I talked about earlier, we've got 8,000 homes that are across the country. How do we make sure that our properties are being repaired to the same standard? Because one of the things that's important to us is mitigating fair lending risk, right? I mean, that's something that you hear about even more so in today's environment than I think we ever had before. And so one of the ways we mitigate fair lending risk in our space is to ensure that we're doing all that we can to bring a consistent product, if you will, to the market, right? And so what I mean by that is, it doesn't matter if I walk a property in Los Angeles, California, in New York, or I'm in Dallas, Texas. The look and the quality and the finish, it should be the same. And so how we do that is we have what we call a mobile scoping tool. What that is when a contractor or an agent is out at the property, they're required to use this tool. And what the tool does is it walks them through options for material. So they have very limited options that we've already pre-approved around material selection, um, and all of that. There's pricing that kind of feeds behind that comes into my team, where we're able to to work out the scope of repairs with the contractor and or the realtor, and then finalize that and approve that work through that technology. And so that's been a game changer for us, here at Fannie Mae. Um, Another thing here, the next bullet, as you can see, I mean, if you imagine with how many properties we repair, one of the things that's great for us is that there are economies of scale, if you can imagine, right? And so we do have negotiated pricing with all of our contractors. There was a point where in the last housing crisis where we were one of the largest purchasers of paint and carpet in the country. Fortunately, we're not in that position anymore today, but again, I mean, we still have obviously a lot of homes that we're repairing, and so again, there's we're able to in essence do that at a much lower cost than I think a lot of investors would be able to. I talked about the design board already, and having a repair standard. Really, what we're trying to accomplish is make sure that our standard is at a minimum. For those of you that are familiar with appraisal condition codes, a minimum of a C3 condition. In a lot of cases, it's depending on the assessment, we're even repairing to a C2 standard. And then, I alluded to this earlier when we were talking about duty to serve and ESG credit. So, some of the things that we're doing from a product perspective is making sure that we're taking every advantage of every opportunity to leverage energy efficient and water saving products in our homes. And so, again, I mentioned earlier, right? It's not just about creating affordable home ownership opportunities, but it's also creating sustainable and affordable for the long term, right? And so anything that we can do to help reduce that burden that ongoing burden of cost, so helping them save on their utilities, right? Their water bill, their electric bill. So we're using Energy Star rated appliances. We have a national contract with Whirlpool. We are, putting in, and these are just some examples, but like LED bulbs that we're putting in our homes, fixtures, low flow toilets, energy efficient water heaters, et cetera. And so, and then some of the other things that we're working on, I mentioned earlier, climate resiliency. We are conducting some tests and learns around solar. And are there areas of the country where we think that would be beneficial for us to do? Are there opportunities for us to test, certain wind-resistant shingles for, against hurricanes or tornadoes in areas of the country that are more susceptible? And so, again, I'm just making sure that we're forward thinking about how we're, how we're deploying our strategy here. And then you can see some before and the afters. I mean, we could spend a full hour on and just showing you photos of before and afters. I know that's at the end of the day, what I always tell my marketing team, I'm like, we should have our own HGTV show, because I mean the work we do is just so transformational and it's so tangible and relatable. But some of the cool stuff that we do is after we complete repairs, we have professional photos completed. So when we put the property on the market, we want to make sure that we're representing that home in the best way possible. We leverage virtual staging, as you can see here in the bottom right. Sometimes, depending on where a property might be located, aerial photography, et cetera. And so, and then on the this slide here, this is just to give you a little bit of an example representation about the design board that I was talking about earlier. As you can see, a little bit of the material selection down here at the bottom left. And then over on the right, you can see kind of an example of how that would work within someone's iPhone or a tablet. All right, I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but this just kind of gives you a high-level overview of just the various touch points of when a property comes into our inventory. And so really the point here is, there's a lot of work that goes into, the success of this strategy that really helps to support every single aspect of it. And so, from the time that we secure a home to, confirming whether or not a property is something that we can repair. There's certain areas of the country that are extremely challenging where like one of the biggest challenges we have right now is just availability of contractors in some of the more rural markets in the country. And so, we're making every effort we can to try to expand our network, but that continues to be, a challenge for us. And then, moving all the way down to, obtaining our bids and, going through the process of reviewing those and approving those and then managing that whole repair process. And then when it's all said and done, we update the value on it and then we put it on the market. And then we do have what we call our 30-day first look period. In fact, let me see, that's on the next slide. Yeah, here we go. Where, the 30-day first look it's an exclusive marketing period where only owner occupant purchasers can make an offer on the property. And so I talked a little bit earlier about how, if we're not selling homes to owner occupants, then we're not being successful in the strategy. So this is one of those kind of enhancements to our strategy that really help to reinforce that. And as you can see here, and just a plug for homepath.com, Homepath is the site that we use to market and sell our REO properties today. And so if you go out to the site, would encourage you to check it out. Just would ask that maybe you check that out after we're done here. But no, in all seriousness, homepath.com, what you'll find is in a particular area, if there are Fannie Mae assets that are on the market, you'll see those at the top of the search. And then if you go into that particular property, or just as an example, within that property, we're going to promote all the concession options that may be available to a purchaser that I covered earlier. We also, agents are required to submit an offer to us within the portal. And so they have to be registered. And then once they're registered, they then will enter that offer and we'll negotiate the terms of that offer with them directly on the website. And then what's great is from a buyer's, like a transparency perspective, they'll have, full visibility into the transaction and what's happening with their offer. Have we agreed to the terms? And then at the end of the day, once we come to terms, everything is DocuSign integrated, contracts are there loaded in the system, and we're able to do everything, on HomePath, as opposed to having to send documents for wet signatures. And then just wanted to share some. I had it on a few slides earlier, but just some transformational examples. I mean, this was a property in Lancaster, New York. This is one, as you can see, the kitchen had green countertops before, so we just went in and did a refresh. And this one, like it says, we updated the flooring, the bathroom. As you can see, we have a new vanity in here. We pulled out the cabinet to give some more room, and did some other repairs. The next one, this was one in Pennsylvania that we did. I mean, as you can see, I was talking about the overall condition of a lot of homes that we see. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is fairly common, and I don't know if a lot of you are accustomed to seeing that, but we'll have a lot of cases where, again, the property's been vacant for a number of years, and just over time, the condition can tend to be pretty bad, right? But you look at what we were able to do with that kitchen. And so this one was a complete remodel. We pulled all of that out. In this case, we were able to salvage the fireplace, but we painted it and did a nice update. And that one turned out really nice. This property here is one in Bridgeton, New Jersey. So, as well as one in Hermitage, Pennsylvania. So for both of these were new construction. And so we're not, I mean, there aren't a lot of these that we do, but if we're in certain areas of the country where we think there's an opportunity for us to come back with whether it be a site built or MH Advantage or MH. That's something that we are doing today and we're doing that in markets all across the country. And one particular area that I'm super proud of that we're doing this in is in the area of Paradise, California, which for those of you who may or may not be familiar, but so Paradise was completely decimated by a wildfire back in 2018, and pretty much the entire town was destroyed. And so we've been working with Paradise. In fact, here's an example of an MH Advantage here on the left, where we've been working with the city in for the lots that we have in our inventory in building brand new MH Advantage homes. And so we've had about 20 to date that either we built or that we've partnered with a local nonprofit in creating some opportunities for homeownership there. And so that's been a really cool project to be an effort to be a part of. Especially in light of the recent events that have happened in Lahaina, just that message of like there's hope, right? Like you see just the transformation that's happened in Paradise and the decimation that happened in Lahaina, and just knowing that that there's a corner at some point, right? And there is a message of hope in there, like I said. This other one here in Jefferson, Louisiana, this is a really cool story too. So this was a C6 property. It was not repairable. Ultimately, we made the decision to tear it down and build a brand new site home, a site built home. And there was a woman who was looking for a home in this area, who was a nurse and just worked right around the corner, but she couldn't find a house. First off, just finding a home that was affordable for her was a challenge, and then finding one in the neighborhood that she wanted to live in. The homes that were available, they were just beyond repair or didn't qualify for financing. And so when she found this this home that we had just repaired, I mean, if you imagine, right, she was pretty excited about it. Obviously, we're able to to come to terms with her on an offer, and since she purchased the home. And so that was just again one example of after another of just some of the great stories about how this is changing people's lives, right, and why we do what we do. All right, I mentioned Community First by Fannie Mae a little bit or earlier at the top of the hour. And so, what Community First is this is if you go out the home path, you'll see there's a kind of a place there on the website for Community First as well. This is the channel that we use to sell our REO properties to nonprofit and community-minded entities. So we've got just under 300 nonprofits that we've vetted and approved, and this is all across the country. And so how this works is when a property comes into our inventory, before we make a decision to repair, we're going to offer that to a nonprofit for purchase, and in doing so, we also provide a concession on top of that. So you think about providing a property at a discount. And so what's great is they're able to go in just similar to HomePath, right? They set up criteria for properties that they're interested, or neighborhoods that they're interested in. If properties do become available, and the system will notify them if and when a home becomes available in that particular market that they operate in, and they can go in and express interest, and then ultimately that comes into my team to work with that that nonprofit community partner on hopefully acquiring or purchasing that property. And so through this what we call Community First NSI, we've sold over 2,300. Or I'm sorry, we've sold over 28,000 homes to 2,300 buyers since 2009. 478 MSAs across the country. It's like I said, we're just in about every market. If we're not in a particular market, it's not because we're not there. It's because we just don't have a nonprofit community partner that works in that particular area. And so, but we've seen a lot of success when you combine the two strategies together with our repair strategy and our Community First strategy. At the end of the day, we feel like we're taking taking advantage of every opportunity that we can to really promote affordable homeownership opportunities in areas of the country where we believe that there wouldn't be otherwise. And so with that, I think that's the last slide that I had that I wanted to cover. Oh, nope, sorry. I had to have another example. So that, again, this is a nonprofit. So after they acquire the property, just a transformation example. And so, another one. I mean, this one was also sold to an owner occupant. And I think I've got one more. Yep. And this is another one in Bay Shore, New York, where they did a really nice job, as you can see here, and going in and making some needed updates. All right. So with that, we are going to transition to Q&A.
So we have a question from Jim. Jim Bob, as a former collections and foreclosure manager, I can attest to the fact that many people simply leave the house loaded with personal property that needs to be cleaned out just to get started. I'm sure you see that quite a bit. Probably one of the vendors that you have on call is just cleaning up properties, I would imagine. So yeah, totally right, Jim. I had if you could expand a little bit on the nonprofit community partnerships that you have. We've connected with a number of them around New York State, and
yeah.
it's the conversations we've had have been very educational, very illuminating. In fact, we've had a number of them on our Affordable Friday webinars to educate the group here about product, program, and the services that they provide. Do you have, is there any umbrella community partnership that you work more directly with than others, like NeighborWorks, for example? How does that, maybe you could expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, Brian.
Yep.
I can tell you from my perspective, there's certain nonprofit partners, right, that obviously have, whether it be a higher level of engagement, if you will, right, with us than others, where I wouldn't call them more specialized or anything. It's just, again, depending on where our inventory and how our inventory aligns to where some of our community partners are located, that does or can tend to create some really good opportunities. We also, I know my team engages with, other nonprofits on, on the affordable rental side, and in creating, and because at the end of the day, like I was saying, our mission is not just about affordable home ownership, right? It's also, affordable rental, and community partners are, can be, and oftentimes are a big part of that. One of the things though that you bring up, though, does bring up a kind of an opportunity, if you will, and we can connect on this offline. But there's a director on my team who manages that community first channel for us. That I'm thinking might be a good opportunity for him to come along with some of your more local community partners, and if that would be something that would be beneficial to this group here. But we can talk about that.
Sure, that could be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got another question from Jim. The FHA 203K program has a nonprofit 203K program, but there is no secondary market for it. Does Fannie Mae have a program similar to that, which might have an established secondary market?
Yeah, we have a renovation. It's a home ready renovation loan. I can't remember exactly the terminology, and my marketing folks would probably shoot me if they heard me say that, but I didn't have those notes here in front of me.
I think you got it.
But the point being, though, is we do have a product that's available for, similar to the FHA 203K type of loan.
Excellent. Real estate agents, right? So if you're a real estate agent, I would imagine that there's a bunch of them that specialize in working with Fannie Mae to get the properties on the market, get them sold. Do they have a particular designation? So if you're a lender, you'd like to partner up with some of these agents, how would you identify them? Are you familiar with that?
So just make sure I'm understanding the question. So
sure.
If I'm a lender, how do I know who Fannie Mae agents are? Was that basically the question?
Yeah, if you're looking to partner up with agents that work with Fannie Mae on the REO side, is there probably a better question for the real estate community. to query, agents that have a
Yeah,
specific designation or whatnot,
like,
or
you know,
authority.
I mean, we don't. I mean, that's a good suggestion. I have to take this back to the team, but I think we could probably get you guys a list of the agents that are in our network in New York, um,
Mhm.
and see if there's an opportunity to do that. I mean, because outside of that, yeah, the only other opportunity you would have to do is you'd have to go out to Home Path and try to figure out, okay, which agents are working
Right.
which properties on the market, and that's not very
Mhm.
efficient. So, yeah, let me take that one back and see if that's something that we can provide. I don't think that would be an issue. Um,
Yeah. Well, from an affordable home standpoint, I mean, identifying the property as would it be considered a home path property? Is that the right way
yep,
to say that? Okay. And you can, from what you said in the presentation, so before I ask my question, I just have to make a statement. I made a list of
yeah,
questions and I had to scratch them all off because you've answered most. The one that I had was the layering of the credits, right?
yep.
So if you're a low to moderate income buyer and you happen to be a first time home buyer, does that mean there's a 3% credit for the LMI component and then another 3% for being a first time home buyer equaling 6% total potential credit towards closing
Yep.
costs and taxes?
And then if you're working with a lender that for the $500 LLPA credit, right?
Hmm.
Like you have an opportunity for 6% plus 500.
That's great. And is the credit tied to the house or tied to the house and a Fannie Mae product that finances the
Um,
purchase?
yeah, so it's going to be the house only.
Okay.
We don't and in fact I don't believe we can require it. But at the end of the day, I mean, as much as we would love to acquire that as a new loan, that is not a contingency, if you will.
Understood. Understood. It's my first impression, watching you go through the presentation. It seems like a very well refined process,
Yeah,
likely fine-tuned through the 2008, 9, and 10 time period.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. We had almost
inventory. Sorry, go
we
ahead.
had almost 300,000 homes at one point. I mean, if you think about like just
Yeah.
the logistics of managing that to where we are today, and to your point, like just how much our technology has really, I mean, not just even our technology, but even the staff here. Right? I mean, a lot of the staff that we still have today were here during that last crisis, and so just the expertise that we have and the skill set of
Mhm.
folks that support this work. I mean, obviously, it's been extremely beneficial.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the peak, I think there were close to 19 million vacant units in this country at the peak
Yeah,
of that crisis. And what are we down to now? I think 15, 0.05 rounding, which is basically the same level of vacant units that we had in 2003. So things have, for all intents and purposes, according to the chart, normalized.
yeah,
But through COVID, it was interesting, right? So you had COVID hit, and vacant units kind of disappeared for a bit, and then you have some stimulus money which helped stabilize, and foreclosure moratoriums, which help kind of lock down the incidence of vacant property. But now things are starting to kind of revert to the mean.
hmm
Starting to see a little bit more of a spike in vacant units appearing, and this is on a national basis. All real estate's local, obviously, but are you seeing any ramping up at all? I mean, the economic condition. I'm not saying we're heading down, or we could have a very soft landing, and everything's going to be fine. But there's also that risk that there could be a credit event or some type of a catalyst that makes that little bit more uncertain. Do you see any more ramping up, or reading the tea leaves? Anything? Because I think you seem to be on the front lines of housing as it relates to delinquency. Anything that you picking up on that?
Yeah, I mean, a few things I would say. I mean, obviously, I can't really talk about predictions per se, but a few things I think
Sure.
that are good to highlight, right? Is like one, I mean, there's still a massive shortage of housing in this country. I think the last I saw was anywhere between 4 to 6 million units short, and I, I I don't know that that's going to be anything that's rectified anytime soon, right? And so with that, what's been interesting to see is how values have, I mean, obviously we saw a rapid home price appreciation really since COVID. And the lack of units available in the market obviously has contributed to that home price appreciation. Just when we thought we were starting to see some degradation in home prices earlier this year with the rate environment where it is and where it was going at the time and where it is even still, right? Like, we're like, oh, okay, is this kind of the or kind of your point, right? It's like the early beginnings of um, of the markets turning, or certain markets turning in the other direction. And then honestly, Brian, like, again, just because there's just not a lot of available supply, what we saw was a lot of those markets bounced right back, and we
Yeah.
actually saw some slight appreciation in a lot of them. And so it's been an interesting dynamic, for sure. One that I think in some cases, like, that no one really ever could have anticipated. Um, and so, I mean, what I will tell you is, obviously, I was talking about earlier how at one point we had almost 200,000 homes in our inventory. I mean, we have the infrastructure in place. Not to say that we have the staff, but the infrastructure is really what we need, to be prepared for any sort of increase in volume. I mean, we don't ever expect to see anything like we ever saw, in 2008, 2010, ever
Mhm.
again. And God help us if that ever, I mean, obviously, if that ever were to happen, that clearly indicates that we didn't learn anything, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, hopefully that that provides some color. And um,
No, totally agree. A lot of resilience in the residential space due to supply demand imbalance at the moment.
yeah,
And
what else is going to be interesting to see is how much with I mean, you've been hearing with office space, right? That a lot of companies just haven't gone back to the office. They've decided to stay virtual. How big of an impact do potential conversions have on that supply challenge, right? Where, I mean, a lot of what I'm hearing, and again, this is going to be really unique to every market, but definitely starting to hear more noise around office to residential conversions happening.
right, right.
Yeah.
That's not an easy conversion either.
No.
Um, yeah, no, that's well. Listen, I had a blast here. This is more information. I'm going to have to rewatch this to absorb everything. Quite a bit of information presented here. Jim made a comment that he believes that the Home Path property website may have listings of Home Path properties for sale, active properties. I'll have to
Yeah.
check
So
that out.
yep. So we have our home path properties that are identified with a unique indicator, and then we also have third party listings on there as well.
Excellent,
Yep.
excellent. Well, one last question I had in my head. You went through some of natural disasters, fires, and things like that. Just more of a you know, just interested if you have any involvement in what happened in Hawaii from the rebuilding standpoint. If I would imagine you have a fair amount of inventory that got burnt down. I'm thinking insurance plays a role in rebuilding that, but has Fannie Mae had any interaction in the solution to housing out there?
Yeah.
Totally
I mean,
not New York related. Sorry, everybody.
sure, no,
Just
but
curious.
it's a national topic, right? I mean, everyone's talking about that. I mean, what I'll tell you is, so the conversations we've been having have really been with our regulator about
Hmm.
ways we can help. I mean, we do have a disaster response team here at the company, where my understanding is there are plans to go out there when it makes sense. I mean, I know that there's still a lot of Lahaina still, my understanding is still blocked off
Yeah.
as they're still going through kind of search and recovery efforts, as well as some of the cleanup to make it more as safe as they can, right, for people to
Hmm.
back to, just hopefully to start their recovery efforts. And so definitely we'll be playing a role in that for sure. Um, and so um, yeah, that's kind of the latest there.
Gotcha. Well, God bless you. And housing is an issue across the country,
Yeah.
and wiping out large swaths of inventories has got to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people. So Appreciate your time today, John. I thank you very much. And
Yeah.
Sherry, do you have any questions I didn't get to? I'm going to take that as a no. And, oh,
No,
sorry.
I was in the same boat as you. I was writing down questions and then he was answering them as he was going through the presentation. So
Mhm.
I feel like
Perfect.
this information is fantastic. Looking forward to
Very
sharing the recording with our Lost Met people and some other folks. So
Well, great.
Excellent.
No,
Well,
again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with all of you, and yeah, if there's anything else that you all need or anything we can do to help, I mean, let us know.
thanks
excellent,
for doing
John.
such great work.
Yeah, it's nice to have this relationship with you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Look forward to
All
the
right.
future here. And with
Yep.
that, we'll wrap it up. I'll turn it back to Christina.
All right. Well, thanks again, John, for joining us today and everyone else for being with us. Couple of quick notes. Save the date for our 2024 Habitat Capital Build Day. That will happen in May. And as a reminder, there's still time to register for the New York NBA convention and separately for the annual golf tournament at a world-class facility. You'll need to make your hotel reservations before Turning Stone sells out. And mark your calendar and join us for the next Affordable Friday webinar scheduled for October 21st.